Have you ever caught yourself saying, I'm just a girl, or I only read marshmallow books, and thought nothing of it, until one day you realize you've actually been cutting off pieces of your intelligence just to fit into a cute aesthetic? Same. And then suddenly I'm spiraling because my dark romance escapism and my everyday behavior were syncing up, like I was being programmed by the algorithm of patriarchy. This is Rationally Insane. I'm Rachel D. Oak, and today we're unpacking one hell of a cultural moment. We're talking about the surprising overlap between authoritarian politics, the tradwife aesthetic, eating disorder culture, TikTok girlification trends, and what we're all reading. And before you panic, no, this is not a lecture, just me, a woman, a girl, a woman, who loves dark romance books and has downplayed her intelligence for the bit, finally connecting the dots. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Why are women shrinking? Whenever authoritarianism rises, and by authoritarianism, let's just say any political movement that is very extreme, women's bodies become political battlegrounds. Historically, we've seen this before. Mussolini had fitness conscriptions, as in a stay fit program for women. Nazi Germany had motherhood medals, literal medals for women who produced enough children. Francoist Spain had mandatory domestic training for girls. I could keep going on and on and on. But my point is, controlling women is always step one when we're losing on democracy. And in the modern version of it, instead of overt control, what we have is women self-disciplining their own bodies. It's much more nefarious because we're being turned against ourselves. My first realization of this was when I was scrolling, as we all do, on TikTok and Instagram, and thinking, it's so interesting how there's an overlap between our political culture and the way women are treated and the way women behave themselves. And then suddenly, in a much more scary way, I realized I've been actually doing the micro version of this without even noticing. Not in an authoritarian political way, but more in a saying, haha, I'm just a silly little book girl, until I took a step back, looking at all of the modern online culture. The patterns are there. Tradwife glamorization, a plastic surgery boom, eating disorder rates spiking, you've got girl maths, girl dinner, I'm just a girl. Okay, now hold on to that thought. Because this shrinking, this female behavior fitting so neatly into a box, is a reflection of a cultural desire to be softer and quieter, smaller. And it shows up in our books too. In fact, I believe women shrink in books first. We can't deny that we've seen a rise of dark romance and fluffy romantasy lately. There's plenty of YouTube videos going viral where people are discussing how male main characters have no emotional complexity in most modern contemporary romance books. And romantasy is the best example. We all know it. Women protagonists are often written as these tiny, breakable creatures. They're just a girl. They lack agency and they're fully passive most times, with just a sprinkle of them being a fighter or having a loud mouth to make you not realize how stupid it is and how flattened they've become. Whereas male characters are also flattening at the same time. They all become tall and brooding and grumpy, hyper-capable and emotionally stunted, but only soft for her. All of this combined makes marshmallow books a badge of shame where they don't need to be. We feel stupid saying, this is the kind of book I like, this is the kind of genre I read, because on a subconscious level we understand that these patterns are happening. But we just can't fully formulate why we still enjoy them. And I'm not shifting the blame to anyone else. Listen, I love dark romance. I find it comforting. It's super escapist. But I also know it is the soft fantasy for me of being protected and chosen and safe. These tropes feel good when we're reading them, but they also reflect something so much bigger. They scratch the itch that the world itself has created. When women feel unsafe, overwhelmed, exhausted, these fantasies spike, historically and psychologically. And that's not a moral judgment, that's just a pattern. For me, dark romance, well, I'm so self-aware of it that it is quite a trauma aesthetic escapism. When I feel unsafe, when I feel economically insecure, when I feel politically silenced or sexually surveilled, which kind of feels like it's 24/7 these days. It makes perfect sense that I and we are drawn to obsessive lovers and hyper-competent men, and this clear protector versus danger power dynamic. Dark romance gives us power, what the real world lacks. There's an intensity, there's a control, and there's a safety to all of it, all at the same time. It's cathartic in essence. And while we're over here giggling and kicking our feet over a tattooed man who says, "You're mine," the real us, the version that is paying rent and existing in society as an adult grown-ass woman, is certainly realizing that she's diminishing her own light outside of fiction as well. because the fiction blends into the world, into the real life girl. Let me walk you through an example. A couple weeks back, okay, maybe it was a couple of months, I was writing a newsletter about the alpha male. I had this kind of epiphany where I saw the overlap between the tradwife thinking and dark romance fetish. Not the actions itself of the mans in the book and the men in real life, but the energy of it, the reason why they act the way that they act. It felt like there were so many parallels between men in books and men in real life, in the very ethos of them. And it's taken me a while to also see the female flip side. That dependency and that shrinking and that softening that we're reading in books, we're seeing them in real life as well, in just a much more subdued way. There was this moment when I was planning this podcast episode that I really caught myself downplaying my own intelligence. I make and post one short form piece of content every single day. If you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, you're probably sick of me. But the point is, my tone and the kind of content that I post is very, very plain in essence. I don't know. For the longest time, I thought I was just being funny and relatable and cute. When I spoke the way that I spoke, in my mind, I was simply trying to fit in with the book girlies so that I can get followers and be popular in the most plain way. But then I also realized I was playing into a narrative that I don't even believe. Every time I say or write the words, "Hey book girlies," it feels fake. We're not girlies. My audience spans from teenagers all the way to 50-year-old women. We're adults, Susan. Why are we calling us girlies and just the girl? And it's not just me, we all do this. We all shrink ourselves when we talk to other people. When we're just speaking in a conversation, we downplay ourselves to avoid being called too much or to be palatable online, or so that we don't have this massive discourse over politics. We don't want to enter a war every time we make conversation, so we take a step back. We were taught this since we were in school, or even at home. You have to pick your battles, right? But where's the line? When does pick your battles become just don't talk about the things that matter to you? And the reason why we do this so often is because, well, intelligence is threatening, but helplessness is celebrated in society, and we naturally internalize what gets rewarded socially. So if us saying our books are silly or using a very limited trending lexicon to get our points across is what gets the point across, then we naturally just do it and fall in with the crowd. Of course, there is a very primal brain reason why we do it, but instead of me going super deep into it in this episode, I'll save it for next week. For now, let's zoom out, because this isn't just personal, it's historical. History repeats itself and we keep missing it. Let's do a whistle-stop tour, shall we? Whenever there's periods of instability, women are pressured into smaller bodies. Think back to Victorian fainting couches. Women were literally encouraged to be fragile. In post-World War I, you had the flappers, these women that were absolutely so stick-thin. In the 1950s, you had the housewife cult, this hyper-domestic femininity that was celebrated. But you don't even need to look that far back. Post-2008 recession was the Victoria's Secret era. It was the Super Bowl of the female thin body. And now, post-2020, eating disorders are up. You have the clean girl aesthetic, the 75 hard challenge, the lock-in trend. Every backlash period after women gain rights equals a return to controlled femininity. And why this matters now, of course, is because you have even more politically charged events that are affecting us, women, and we can't ignore it or look at them in an isolated spectrum. Roe v. Wade being overturned, anti-abortion politics rising all over the world, a rising global authoritarianism, ED resurgence, the tradwife aesthetic making a giant comeback. Every single time you have economic precarity, the marry rich content surges. Come on, we've all seen the videos of how to attract a rich man or on how to get a sugar daddy. We make jokes that if all else fails, we're going to be midnight ballerinas, wink wink, or sell feet pics. And I joke, and we all joke. But the reality is that every time society shakes, women are getting told to shrink. And here's the scary part. We, readers, were participating in it without even realizing it. Politically oppressed eras produced the most escapist and violent fiction. In Victorian repression, you had a massive surge in Gothic genre. After the World War II trauma, you had the golden age of comics. Hello, Captain America? Meanwhile, during the Cold War, you had tons of dystopian sci-fi. And in 2020 onward, you can't deny that we've seen a massive dark romance boom. This is all connected. It all happens for a reason. Books, what we read, what we write, they are an escape. They're a consequence of what we're very much living in real life. So what the hell do we do with all this knowledge? I'm not attacking romance readers. I love it. You read whatever brings you joy, and you're not responsible for political systems, okay? If you're a woman and you're listening to this, it is not on you to carry the weight of the world. But at the same time, I'd invite you to have a little bit more of awareness. Yes, you can love a marshmallow, plain boy gets girl book and still refuse to shrink in real life. You can enjoy this like caveman book boyfriend Viking and still demand emotional labor from the real men in your life. Of course, you can play dumb online for humor and still own your intelligence offline. Make sure that you can hold these two containers and are very aware when you're not doing it. Notice when you're downplaying yourself, when you're belittling your own taste and your own likes to be palatable. Notice when your escapism is just you trying to be innocuous, inconspicuous, and tiny. The little shy, modest girl. Don't do it to judge yourself, just do it to notice. Notice when your escapism starts translating into, I'm just modest and shy and I'm going to be in my little corner and not make any waves in the real world. There's enough judgment to go around. Enough people in your world to tell you what you should and shouldn't be. But you need to see and acknowledge yourself, what you're thinking, how you're behaving, to be able to have really practical steps to stop that behavior from happening. Because when you have that behavior, when you act like you're just a little girl when you're a grown woman, that behavior is reflected onto others, especially those who are growing up around you and think, oh, in order for me to be loved, liked, accepted, I must downplay who I am in my essence. I must remain in my little girl container. I can't dream bigger or do more. And I'm also not saying to stop reading dark romance. God knows I won't. But I am saying that maybe you shouldn't be shrinking yourself just because the world tells you it's cute. Be soft in fiction if you want, but be loud in real life. Your intelligence isn't a liability. And if history keeps trying to make women tiny, the least you can do is refuse to fit the mold. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider rating the podcast. Share it, tell a friend. Let's collectively de-shrink the internet. Easy peasy, right?